neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. I've been doing my overlooked and underrated songs countdown for years now, but I've never looked at an artist that I wouldn't say that I full-on love before, which is why this episode, it's gonna be pretty damn spicy. Announcing that I don't love Gorillaz before starting a Gorillaz-themed video. That seems weird on paper, but these are strange times, and I hope you'll see it as me being honest or else not pretending to love a band that I simply don't love as a whole. I mean, I like them, I respect them, but love them? This relationship's getting too real, I'ma head out. Damon Albarn is a musician I've consistently been exposed to for a long time now, whether that's with Blur, Gorillaz, solo work, or one of his other many projects. He's obviously insanely good at what he does, but it's not always for me, even if there are Gorillaz records like Plastic Beach and Humans that I really do enjoy as a whole body of work.
It's alright, but it's just not my kind of music.
I thought it would be cool to feature our cartoon friends here on my massively underrated song series as a way to pick the mind of a guy who's not a super fan, but has also listened to their entire discography and feels like there's some really underrepresented gems for the mainstream. If you enjoy this video, which I hope you will, then please like the video and subscribe if you happen to be new to my channel.
I got lost on the highway, but don't ask me where I'll be.
The Fall is not an album I'm all that fond of. It's intentionally different, subdued and under the radar really, just a collection of musings from Damon, who recorded this entire album on an iPad while driving city to city to promote the excellent Plastic Beach. Whereas that album had an assortment of rainbow-like colors, The Fall came months later, but it's much more gray in nature, defined even further by the isolated gem Amarillo, named after the city in Texas they were passing through at the time of recording. Capturing this kind of lonely, helpless feeling into one simple prayer feels pure. I mean, we've all been at the end of our rope where we don't know where we're gonna turn for salvation, and through some interesting metaphors that pair smoothly with the tantalizing programmed drum loop and some delicate synths, we've got a process moment that feels surprisingly human. Okay, so for a long time, I really didn't like this song. I just couldn't with the super droll pace and the blah blahs 2D repeats throughout the entire track. But then, I decided to look up the lyrics to see if there was some important detail I was missing or else wasn't hearing, and it turns out, yeah, holy shit, this is actually some really good commentary on the disposable mainstream market. What I mean by that is that the lyrics seem to intentionally lazily walk about while dragging their feet, pointing out how mundane the rat race of the music industry truly is. Not just that, but people around us everywhere, they just seem to be flying by doing the exact same boring shit caught up in their own little game, and I can't even properly explain it here, but somehow the vocoded vocals in tandem with all of that, and also the 80s drum kicks, it just makes it sound like the soundtrack to a cyberpunk film, and I mean that in the most flattering way possible. Humans definitely wasn't the most cohesive of albums with its fluttering of genres, even though some of its transitions were flawless. But one thing that's hard to argue is just how strong its most unforgettable moments actually are. Chargers simultaneously feels like a slow march out to battle thanks to its suspenseful looping electric riff, and dismissive thanks to the aloofness Damon maintains in his vocal showing. Rumor has it that this song took forever to complete, with dozens of versions being burned through leading up to the studio time the Gorillaz crew had booked with the iconic Jamaican model and artist Grace Jones. Thank God they actually made it happen though, because this is a haunting as hell sidewinder that hits a bit like standing in front of a jet engine that's slowly blowing you away with more and more and more force. Grace is a rather genius counterpart to Damon, adding this Outer Limits touch to the piece while the guitar just keeps blasting away, while some sci-fi leaning synths boldly dominate the mix as things keep going.
If I ever had to do it, well, you know I wouldn't care. I just take down. I love in the feet, yeah, and if I want to talk back, the message is free. Then there's a fight, a raid, and out in the side. And if you get parted, you get them a lot, you get a heart.
The year is 2012. Converse are running their successful 3 artists 1 song series, and they announced they're giving away a new Gorillaz track for free. Even though I'm not that much of a fan at the time, I was sold considering the song also featured James Murphy from LCD Sound System and the legendary Outkast rapper Andre 3000. However, in modern times, this cut has sadly become much more obscure due to the discontinuation of the Converse series, meaning that they actually still retain the rights to the song and it's not on streaming platforms or even YouTube in an official setting. The heart of this song is captured in the single edit, featuring a vibrant synth line and a really playful melody that just kinda hits right when you're in the mood to vibe. Maybe summer is the ideal season for it, but it still feels good year round. James is killer on the bouncy hook, 2D is great during the first two verses, and Andre 3000 slides right in around the 2-minute mark and carries the torch from that point onward. Biting the bullet and giving the fans what they want. That's the Gorillaz motto, as evidenced by this Sleeping Beauty that featured more 2D front and center immediately after the release of Humans. That album was so collab heavy that many felt jaded that their favorite animated frontman didn't get the spotlight for an entire song outside of the heartbreaking ballad Busted in Blue, so here's an upbeat 2D only track about drug addiction. Spiraling synths fire up like a coughing fit, egged on by a fancy little intro that feels very prim and proper before Damon comes in to raid the garden party with his sleeping powder. Sleeping powder is of course an obvious euphemism for drugs, and while there's definitely plenty of parallels between Damon's own life and the character he portrays, I think this addiction is mainly 2D's thing. Whatever the case, it's an underrated treat with a hypnotizing bass groove and a foot-tapping cadence, so on the off chance you missed out on this post-Humans 2D single, now's the time to give it the love it deserves. The closing track from the self-titled debut Gorillaz album might take a bit to set the gears in motion, but once the rowdy drums and ripping guitar shreds through the cracks in the ceiling, M1A1 is an off-the-rails adventure that unfortunately doesn't seem to get its fair share of the praise. This album is kinda disjointed and all over the place, and I really don't mean that in a good way, but the tracks that go hard in the paint absolutely made me realize it was wrong to write off this project entirely. It feels a bit random and bizarre, but I've actually grown to love this track a ton. They just kind of blast the door off its hinges after we get through the shouted hellos that jump-started, only to bolt it back shut by the end of the 4-minute run. We don't get a ton of Gorillaz songs that feature a punk influence, but I'd definitely say this is one of them. So if you're looking for something that appeals to more of their rocky side, then M1A1 is a surefire hit.
Sorry that you're feeling it, but I just have to tell you that I love you so much these days.
Okay, so to be honest, I wasn't planning to put this on my underrated Gorillaz songs list because I actually already featured it in my own top 10 countdown for them a few years ago, yet here we are because I actually feel justified in giving To Binge featuring Little Drag a spot because I learned some new information about the track that actually made me swoon that much harder. Originally, I just saw the beauty of the lush instrumentation and didn't look into the lyrics all that much, and while that absolutely still holds true, from that standpoint, it's a beautiful, kind of modern, waltzy, jazzy vibe that feels timeless, but this song is about battling alcohol addiction and also not really knowing how harmful that can be to a romantic partner. You're a stranger to yourself, you're literally binging this beverage and looking for solutions at the bottom of a bottle that aren't there. The music has a distinct Hawaiian personality which can be confusing or else concussive. It all feels so warm and happy, but maybe that's a metaphor for the temporary feeling of confidence alcohol can give the addict. Our man Murdoch is credited with writing Plastic Beach after all, and that dude looks like he's been through the ringer, so maybe it's just best to sit back smiling and waving at this charming collaboration, the second of two with Little Dragon on this album by the way, both of which are among my favorites and they're both amazing. So that's it! What did you guys think of my picks for some of the most underrated Gorillaz songs ever crafted? Let me know in the comments section down below, and subscribe for more Gorillaz and music content in the near future. Don't skip the like button, y'all know that helps the channel, so go ahead and turn that blue while you're down there commenting away about songs that I forgot. Part 2 will hopefully be revealed somewhere down the line, but for now, check out the last underrated songs video here, or see my top 10 favorite Gorillaz tracks here. If you want to support the channel financially, my Patreon is the top link in the description down below, and I'll be back soon with more on ARTV.